how it feels to suffer from it. My name's Dan, and I'm a practitioner in fine art. I specialise in four-dimensional mixed media art, so the three Cartesian coordinate system that we all know, and the fourth dimension generally being time, sometimes represented as light. I'm currently studying for a Masters in Fine Art, however my background is not art. I spent over 20 years as an oil and gas consultant, specialising in production chemistry, troubleshooting, corrosion, measuring of nasty chemicals such as mercury and H2S. And my previous education are degrees in chemistry and my second one through the OU in geology with engineering. So how do I end up studying for a Masters in Fine Arts? In 2011, unfortunately, I got trapped in Libya during the Civil War, and subsequently, as for what happened in Libya during that war, whilst I wasn't directly involved in it, I was in a situation where it seemed like no escape. I eventually escaped through the American consulate to Istanbul and came home from there. But the way I was treated by the company, both that I was working for at the time, both in Libya and afterwards, I subsequently developed PTSD and depression, so mental health illnesses. And it was a very painful time for myself and for my family, and I am acutely aware of how my mental health issues enveloped and had an effect on my family, directly and indirectly. And so part of my treatment for depression was art therapy through a local charity in Swindon, Ipswich, and therefore I grew an affinity for art that had never been there. I dropped art at 13 years old at school, and so through my art therapy I then created a passion for art. I know where my limits are within the art world technically, but what I bring to it is an awareness of science. So I bring my science into my art, and I want to share my knowledge and my passion for science through art. Last term, most of my art was very much about representation of mental health illnesses. So the piece you've just seen on camera is a very small piano hammer on a cam system that when you turn the handle, it hits a spring-mounted nail, and it's very much like a nail being driven into the head. And that's one of the representations I had of mental health illnesses. There are other examples of being on a motor strip, so a never-ending loop of path, and you're feeling trapped, or you can't see the wood for the trees, or there's found art in the language of Duchamp. They used a found item, a damaged driver's crash helmet, to represent the brain being bruised. So I'm now moving on to look at the moment of trauma and how that feels and what happens to the brain. So it's very much like Ground Zero and 9/11. There's a massive, it doesn't always happen in a massive way, but a massive shock, a point of inflection. So I'm now looking at representations of what happens in systems in the brain when this trauma happens and why your life then goes off on a tangent. And I'm looking at how to represent that in graphical form from titrations I used to do in potentiometric titrations many years ago, and using images of an S-shaped curve, and between the two parts of the S you've got that almost still point, the point of inflection, and what that means and how that can be represented in art. It could be through this piece here. So where you have a change in direction here, that can very much represent it with a colour change. So it doesn't have to be as pretty as that. It can be, I've looked at representing it using 4 circles, so X, Y, Z on the Cartesian points, and the 4th circle is therefore then time. Or you can have 3 interconnecting circles like in a Venn diagram, and you can have light shining through them or a light shining on them. So it's very much just working with materials. All these glass I'm using at the moment came from Crosby Beach on Merseyside, and that was the dumping ground for the Blitz of Liverpool during the Second World War when the Nazis bombed. So, like a ground zero in Liverpool, I'm using materials from there that washed up on the beach, broken glass, safety glass, that is now being repurposed over 70 years later into my artwork as an analogy, as a metaphor for mental health problems. And I'm hoping therefore to raise awareness of mental health, how it affects the individual, communities, families, and tying it all in. So I'm trying to take a holistic overview approach to my art, using materials, minimising new materials because of my high carbon footprint from my previous life, and found objects, and then bringing it all together for the greater good.